Through the power of modding, EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2 is becoming an even bigger and better game in 2024, and hopefully for years to come. The classic Battlefront games allowed you to play instant action on many maps and have a truly one-of-a-kind sandbox Star Wars experience. With EA's Battlefront 2 becoming more accessible to mod, new developments have been brought to the game's single-player modes, including brand new modes themselves. Currently, in the base game of Battlefront 2, players can enjoy a fair amount of modes offline in single-player. Arcade mode allows you to customize parameters and essentially play a standard team deathmatch based mode offline. The same goes for Starfighter Arcade, which is like regular arcade mode, but instead you take to the skies in starfighters and blast enemies out of the sky with your team of bot buddies. The game also has a single-player campaign mode that you play as Iden Versio and a few other iconic Star Wars characters in a variety of story-based missions, including DLC that takes place after the events of the original campaign. Instant action was eventually added to the game, as it wasn't implemented at launch. In Instant Action, you can play Supremacy, which is your standard large-scale command post-based capturing mode. There's also Missions Attack and Defend, which is the co-op game modes playable offline, in which you take on AI to attack or defend command posts to either push forward or fall back to new areas on a map. So what's new for 2024? The modes previously mentioned were official offline modes you could play when the game was stripped of development support back in 2020. Well, thanks to mods, there are a lot of new game modes now playable against AI, most of them being the multiplayer game modes that previously didn't support AI and therefore couldn't be played in single player. In 2024, we can now play Galactic Assault, Starfighter Assault, Extraction, Strike, Cargo, Heroes vs. Villains, and Blast all offline in single player against AI bots, which again was not supported for offline play until as of recently. I'm going to give an overview on each game mode as well as some of my personal thoughts about them while showing you gameplay for each. I'll leave a link in the description for each mode in case you want to play them yourself, which I highly recommend. I'll start by talking about the big flagship mode for the game, Galactic Assault. Galactic Assault is a standalone mod that allows you to play most of the maps presented in the online flagship game mode, offline against bots. If you played the multiplayer variant, this is the same thing, just playable against the AI. Because this mode was never intended to be played offline in single player, it comes with its fair share of issues such as buggy AI that only plays the regular trooper classes, and some maps straight up not working. For the maps that Galactic Assault does work on though, it's quite an immersive experience. Maps like the Death Star 2, Tatooine, and Yavin 4 all allow for the entirety of Galactic Assault to be played and completed with either faction, since the AI will play and push the objective. Maps like Geonosis, Takodana, and Endor require the player to push the objective in order to progress through the different phases of the mode. There are also some maps like Hoth, Starkiller Base, and Kashyyyk where the AI simply doesn't work, but you can still explore the maps and progress the objective by yourself if you're just looking to check out the cool little details across maps. It's cool to finally have a playable version of Galactic Assault playable offline, even if it's not perfect. The fact that someone got the AI to even exist and play the objectives on some of these maps is just a dream come true. I hope one day the mod gets improved upon, but for now, at least we have some sort of working version of Galactic Assault playable offline in single player. Now, the next mode I want to talk about is Starfighter Assault. Starfighter Assault is also playable offline and has been tweaked to allow the player to play each map from beginning to end as whatever faction that pushes the objective on. The health of objectives that need to be attacked have been lowered to allow the player to take them out by themselves, as the player's team won't always play the objective, except for the ships that spawn in specifically to attack objectives. You can play as the defending team in Starfighter Assault, but depending on the map, the game mode might not be beatable due to the AI and other factors that prevent the player from winning. However, just like Galactic Assault, I'm incredibly happy that we can immerse ourselves in the flagship Starfighter game mode that many of us were looking forward to playing when the game was first announced. Also in this mode, all heroes and villains are accessible, and if you download the Collection Unlocker mod, you can even equip your starfighters with the cards and abilities from multiplayer. It's a pretty fun time. Next, I want to talk about a mod called the Instant Action Overhaul XL, which is what brings a number of the multiplayer game modes offline to single-player instant action. Unlike the standard base instant action, which has supremacy and missions attack and defend, this mod adds all new game modes, but also allows for better customization for the standard modes in instant action. For example, you can now select any faction to fight against each other on any of the maps. You can make the rebels fight droids on Camino, or have the Empire take on clone troopers across any of the playable maps. You can also adjust parameters surrounding vehicles, trooper classes, and heroes. This mod really makes instant action the ultimate sandbox experience by giving great customization to the modes we already have, and by adding new modes to play in single player. Now, the first mode I want to talk about here is Strike. Strike is a smaller game mode that has the player and their team complete a variety of objectives depending on the map. For example, on the Death Star, you play as a small rebel strike team sent to the massive space station to retrieve intel and escape. On Jakku, you play as a small resistance team tasked with retrieving a star map from a downed Star Destroyer. Strike really breaks things up from the large battles we've gotten with the other modes. The AI can be buggy on some maps, but it mostly works on most of the levels and it's a lot of fun to play. I would say one gripe I have with this mode though is how difficult the AI can be. It will actually have you feel like you're playing multiplayer with real players in the amount of times you'll die and how quickly you'll die, even as heroes. You can also set parameters so that heroes and reinforcements can be part of the game mode or not. This is a cool way to change up the dynamic of the game that its multiplayer counterpart lacks. Every time I've played this mode, my experience has been completely different, even on the same maps. I actually think the AI being buggy creates for a lot of unpredictability. It's not like missions attack and defend, where once you devise a strategy, it'll work 8 times out of 10. You never know what's going to happen when you play this game mode, which is kinda awesome. Next is Extraction. Extraction was first introduced in Battlefront 2015, where the rebels had to push a load of cargo through 3 phases before the timer ran out. Extraction returns to EA's Battlefront 2 on 2 maps, Kessel and Jabba's Palace. The objective is the same, in which you have to escort a load of cargo across 3 phases in order to win as the rebels. The only difference here is that the cargo is activated when a player stands near it, rather than having to activate it via switch. I think this is what makes the mode playable offline, as the AI sometimes has difficulty activating switches in other game modes. DICE kinda inadvertently made this mode pretty easy to port over for multiplayer because of this, and as a result it works great here. In Extraction, you can relive the Battle of Kessel from solo, or play out your wildest heist fantasies on Jabba's Palace. It's a lot of fun, especially when you get to a point where the cargo is contested in a doorway and you have to take an alternative path to flank the enemy to get the cargo moving again. Up next is Cargo. Cargo is a game mode where the rebels and Empire fight over precious cargo and must bring them back to their designated area in order to win. You'll only be able to play in the Galactic Civil War era on 3 maps, Bespin, Tatooine, and Yavin 4, but it's still a lot of fun. Since the AI is kind of ruthless on these game modes, I recommend decreasing the enemy team's size since they will mow you down constantly. But I suppose if you want to have that crazy multiplayer experience offline, it's certainly here for you. You can also turn on and off the heroes and reinforcements to customize your experience with this game mode. You can adjust any other parameters such as the timer and cargo capacity to win, but I don't think it's needed here in my opinion. The mode works really well and also feels similar to its multiplayer variant due to the AI's increased difficulty. Now, Heroes vs. Villains makes a proper debut to offline instant action. Before, you could cheese a makeshift version of Heroes vs. Villains by playing around with and setting parameters in Supremacy, but here it's a lot more customizable and is playable on a lot more maps. In this version of Heroes vs. Villains, you can set what types of heroes appear and how many. You can also have chaotic battles of many heroes and villains, or do a 1 vs. 1 type thing. It's a lot of fun playing this game mode, and I'm surprised it didn't see an actual release by the developers themselves, as it seems like something fairly easy to implement into the single player portion of the game. Thankfully, the AI here is similar to the hero AI you encounter in the regular instant action modes, so they aren't too difficult to defeat. I actually enjoy playing this game mode online, and surprisingly enjoyed playing this offline version equally as much. And then finally we have Blast. Offline Blast is your standard team deathmatch mode playable against AI. The main difference between this version of Blast and what we have in arcade are the playable maps and layers of customization. In this version of Blast, you can enable heroes and reinforcements or just play as standard troopers. There's a fair amount of customization here that arcade just doesn't have, especially the fact that the AI can play as heroes and reinforcements as well, whereas in arcade they can't. I never cared for Blast, but it can be fun playing it on maps that weren't playable in arcade. And finally, as a bonus, there is another standalone mod that allows Bounty Hunt to be playable offline. Unfortunately, with this mod, once you install it, you can't play any other game mode in instant action, as it replaces it with this game mode instead. Unfortunately, it seems like the custom parameters you can set, which are the team sizes, doesn't work, as the game will automatically set the game mode to 10 no matter what you put the settings at. To be fair, it just feels like a free-for-all version of Blast. I didn't find that greatness of enjoyment here, but maybe you will. Anyway, those have been some of the game modes added to offline instant action. While they aren't perfect and have many bugs to be sorted out, it does excite me when new stuff like this is added to the game. Sure, they might not be officially supported by the original developers on the game, but that's okay. It's up to the community to continue the lifespan of this legendary game. I see so much potential in the future for the modding community and this game, and I'm happy to see folks still playing it after all this time. Battlefront 2 might not ever live up to the classic games, but in my opinion it comes awfully close, if not slightly better, due to the variety of game modes you can now play against bots. Sure, it's not space to ground combat, but it doesn't need to be in order for it to be great. I think the content we currently have available to us is already significant enough to love the game as is. While it would be great to have improvements made over time, I think we're already standing on a legendary game with plenty to experience in single player thanks to modders who make this all possible. But what do you guys think? How could EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 become your favorite Star Wars game of all time with the power of mods? I'd like to hear some realistic ideas down in the comments below. Also, let me know if you're still playing any of the Battlefront games made by EA in 2024. I still love this game and see myself playing it for many years to come. If you'd like to see more Star Wars and Battlefront content from us in the future, please subscribe to the channel and like the video, as it helps come across to more people who also enjoy the game. But yeah, I'm talking way too much now, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.